All right, well, we're back with the price tag of leadership, part 11. This is the final part for this aspect of what we've been going through over the last several weeks, even in the last couple of months. And the key areas that set you apart as a leader, and Joseph Gantar Enterprise. And so please bear with me. I'm still recovering off of whatever I got here. So we're just going to continue on to move forward. So what we're going to be looking into is character-driven people. So what are we talking about character-driven people? These are people that tend to do the right thing when nobody's looking. Okay, so what exactly does this mean? Well, when they act first, then the feeling comes. It's basically saying, hey, what we're going to do is, I don't care if we're tired or like right now, I'm just like completely bagged. It doesn't matter how you're feeling. Act first. Okay, you just got to get in there and just do what you got to do, because what happens is that you have to be able to take your eyes off yourself and continue to push on through, continue to be consistent, continue to push in the areas that are requiring you to fill in gaps when people are relying on you, especially in today's day and age. It's very rare to find, it's very rare to see. This is where you really set yourself apart, when you're coming into certain arenas and certain places and certain aspects of things that you might not be fully aware of, but you're like, I got to rely on my character-based principles. So I'm going to act first, and then the feeling comes. You follow through on your commitments. So what does this mean? Well, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, they always coincide together. So my actions definitely mirror my words, and my words definitely mirror my actions. So you say and do the same thing. There's no go. We're wavering and thinking that it's going to happen. Okay, we're actually going to move in and say, this is it. This is what's going to happen. This is how we're going to do it, no matter what, hell or high water we're going through. So create a principle-based foundation for making decisions. So when things are coming out your way and you're like, I don't know what's going on, I'm getting sideswiped, I'm getting distracted, I got this, I got that, and that, and it keeps on adding up. When you create principle-based decision making off of a broad foundation, what you're doing is you're saying, no matter what happens, this is how it's going to go. Okay, so I know right from wrong in this situation. I'm going to continuously set myself apart. Why? Because this is exactly where it all begins. This is exactly where it all stems from. Your core belief system, your core morals, okay? Knowing right from wrong. You're not going to go in and say, okay, I'm going to serve, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to make sure, whatever, and you're on the top of an organization, and then you find that you have a few key other people with you that are coinciding with you, and you're like, hey, man, I got all these resources, okay? And then let's just say you're shaving off of people's pensions, okay? And in the sense of like, hey, well, if we have a body here that collects all the money, and then we have another body over here that invests it, okay? What happens is that there's an exchange of hands, and you're in the middle of it. Having a principle-based foundation for making decisions says that you're not going to take anything in between that transaction when it's going from one body to another. You're not going to scrape off, then shave off a little bit for yourself off of each person. And then unfortunately what ends up happening is that you would have millions turn into hundreds of thousands in certain financial resources, okay? And then you're going to see organizations completely implode and completely dissolve because they don't have principle-based foundation for making decisions, okay? They believe first and then they see. So like they believe in a cause. These are the people that are like, what? I don't care what it's going to take. We're going to push through. We're going to make things happen. We're going to make it no matter what. Even though we don't see the results, even though we don't see anything tangible right now. But let's act on faith. Let's believe in it first, and then it'll all happen. It'll all just transpire, and then it'll come together. And that's how this works, okay? These character-driven people are essentially your movers and your shakers to really make momentum occur. Momentum can take sometimes days, weeks, even months. to really feel the rhythm, the rhyme, the motion of what is to actually come into fruition and how things are supposed to come in to really multiply your actions. It doesn't matter what may or could or how or what, but if you have people in your organization that are able to do this, create the hardest thing, which is momentum, I would do whatever you can do in order to keep them and not necessarily make them happy in a monetary sense. Maybe they want more time off with their family. Maybe they want to have scheduled, flexibility. Maybe they just want something simple, but whatever it might be, accommodate to them in these situations or circumstances in the smallest ways if your funds are tight, because you never know what can happen down the road when you have momentum really working for you 6 months to a year down the road, and all of a sudden, wow, I didn't expect an 8-figure quarter in abundance of a revenue because of a couple of movers and shakers that created momentum. So when you look at this continued, no matter what, they're going to see, hey, they got my back, regardless. They could come in a very unsuspectful way. As you can see here, you have a woman who has a man's back. And I don't think it's anything short of saying in a house or anything else, you can say, wow, he's this, he's that, or whatever, but it all comes down to the woman behind the man that'll be able to really hold that man in that position or in that type of not necessarily charisma, but just continuous substance of continuously pushing and moving forward and pushing through. Why? Because I don't know how or what was really designed in the initial phases of men and women, but I honestly believe that a woman is a phenomenal, gifted in the sense of holding things together. Men can build no matter what. Like they can just take, okay, I got to take this, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to take this and build it on that. And I don't know how, but women know how to say, hey, that's good that he's doing this, but I got to tweak it a little bit here. I got to tweak it a little bit there because it has to hold together. We have to have these types of means of communication or these types of means of awareness in the house in order for people to be able to operate in a fluid manner. And that's what holds things together. Women are somehow, some way just given this natural born gift. And it is absolutely amazing to see. So are willing to step up and make things happen by asking, what are my responsibilities? Here we go again. Correct. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I'm definitely right. If there's a need or if there's something that isn't exactly going a certain way where it could go a lot better, you get a woman involved and she intervenes and you're just like, okay, I didn't expect, these, things to happen to make this environment more warm, to make this final exchange a little bit more subtly interactive or ease and into it. As women have such a warm touch on things in some cases and scenarios and situations, not all, but in some, right? So you have to know the roles in certain cases and circumstances, but they can be very powerful resources in the most unexpected ways. So never underestimate who has your back and when. So you want to push through no matter what. Problems arise. You always want to be optimistic and seeking the best outcomes. Why? Because no matter what comes your way, if you're holding your head down and you're getting kicked around in the sand and you're like, okay, I'm done. No, you're not getting kicked around. Stand up strong, you brush yourself off, and you want to know what's going to happen. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. You're going to feel great, not in that exact moment, but you're going to take a couple more steps forward in life, whether that be like, okay, I got to reassess what I'm doing here, how I'm able to approach certain things, and where are certain things happening, and how are they coming into fruition. And next thing you know, when all of these things kind of come into fruition and roll about, what happens is they acted before they felt, and now they're reaping the reward of seeking, hey, that outcome was ideal because, I was really unsure. I kind of wasn't 100%, on my game, but I had to pull through and I had to do whatever I had to do to make things happen in such a way where it made sense to just act on these principles. And then you push forward, and here all of a sudden you're like, wow, that was a great outcome. I feel great. Okay, so you got to push through no matter what problems arise and always seeking the best outcomes. It's just one of those things. Okay, normally you're going to see very subtle things, okay, in people's routines or how they do things, but they are just settled in the steady. And you're like, what in the world does this mean? Settled in the steady means this: when you're going in and going out and going in and going out, tying your shoes the same way, doing the same exercises, you go into work, you set, your workspace a certain way, you do and it's just mindless. And you're like, why is it just so redundantly, repetitively boring? Because no matter what's going on in the outside of that space, this person is actually doing what they call zoning in and dialing in. So they're getting settled in the steady. So what means is it's saying, okay, I'm putting everything else aside, away, and I'm putting all the emotions aside. No matter what happened on my way, catastrophic things could have happened, but I'm going to do the mundane and get settled in the steady. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just follow through and push on through and execute and execute and execute. Okay? That's what, when they say they are settled in the steady, they have a set routine that is unshakable no matter what has been going on in other areas of their life. They are able to continuously push on through and continue to lead like a champion, like they are, because they just know what is expected of them, and they step up and they rise and they continue to go on. So stand out as a leader from acting on the list is a pretty clear indication. If you see a few, or you might not see all of these things, because you're going to see everyone in different forms of development. Okay, so you're not going to see, but if you see a few of these things really stand out, really encourage you to just keep an eye on that person that is within your organization. And then you're going to pull them to the side eventually when they've, proven themselves to you. Try and build a trusting relationship to a certain level, to a certain degree, obviously within certain parameters of within your organization's policies and procedures, so that things don't get clouded or they could get complicated down the road. But those are the individuals that you really want to take heart in, and make sure that you just hold on to them for the long haul, because those are the ones that are going to pull you through, thick, thin, through high water and hell. Now, unfortunately, believe it or not, guess what? We also got emotional driven people, and this is just the holy smoke, okay? What are you talking about? Well, if I don't feel it, I don't believe it. These are the kind of people that just, if they need to feel the jam, like I gotta get hyped up first, like they got this routine where they're just like, okay, I gotta make sure that I'm on my game. And so what do they? This, you didn't need to do that. You just needed to follow through and push through and just some of the smallest tasks that were needed, but you just decided to go AWOL, and you had to make sure that you got this feeling before you then did what is right. It just doesn't make any sense. Oh, this is a rough one today. So, obviously, emotion driven people. Well, if it's driven by what is convenient, then I'm gonna do it. If it's convenient, no problem. Yeah, I can do that, no problem. It's very convenient. It's just right there. It's like low picking fruit, Just get that sales or call or close that deal. It's just bang bang, like no problem. I can easily just smash that out because it's on convenience. It wasn't done out of inconvenience because of certain things didn't go their way. They just everything went the way. Okay, now I'm gonna do it. Doesn't work. So here's the other thing. These emotional driven people are focused on making the popular decision. Well, if the people aren't happy, then neither am I. Well, that makes no sense because unfortunately, in some cases where you have a majority uninformed body of people, they may think that they know what they want, but they don't know because they're going by what they feel and they're just going out of, well, this is what we see at the time. Focused on making the popular decision can actually be the demise of your organization. You got to make sure that all aspects and all angles and all factors are taken into consideration when making such critical, most pivotal, ideological decisions. Why? Because it's going to be able to plant such a powerful seed in the next few months, few years, maybe even a couple of decades down the road that you had no idea that would come, that all of a sudden rose to the occasion. So here's one for you. When you had his name just slipped my mind, but he's the owner of Walmart. I heard a story when him and his family went on vacations. They would stop in competitor stores and he would take notes, and he was like, what are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Family was getting kind of fed up, right? I mean, kids are like, hey, come on, Dad, we want to go and we want to actually get to our destination, to our vacation, but it's, why are we doing this all the time? And so here, all of a sudden, decades later, all of a sudden you see an empire rise because he wasn't focused on making the popular decision and just going to the family vacation destination. He checked out his competitors to see if he could learn and improve, and he did. So they allow their attitude to control their actions. You're like, what? Attitude? Yeah, attitude's everything. Attitude is the one thing that'll either make or break you, guaranteed every single time. You can have a few small incidences that be like, hey, whatever, we can manage this, we can do that, we can do this. Or attitude could be like, whoa, they didn't fill this, jug up properly to this level. And now we're going to run out of refreshments in whatever meeting or event. And it's just like, come on, like, really? Never let your attitude control your actions. Sure, be charismatic and passionate and just enthusiastic about it, but you don't need to actually go in and say, well, it just didn't work out because things just weren't there. My attitude was just in the way. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So they have to see results before they believe in the cause. You see, the problem is that these people, they'll never be the front foremost important decision makers or movers or shakers in creating momentum or anything, because if you have to see results in order to believe in a cause, then you've already lost. It's just that simple. So when you see they need things to be in their timing to happen, not creating anything, this is very catastrophic. Very catastrophic. You want to know why? Because the timing's never going to be there. The timing will never be perfect. You got to be prepared and you got to see opportunity. And when the timing and those two meet, then you got something happening. It didn't say, well, the stars lined up and everything was going on. No, you're going to see when people make major decisions, it wasn't because they just happened to be, hey, wow, that's a great opportunity. I think now, yeah, the timing's right. It's going to happen. No, they actually grinded it out. You look at professional athletes, they weren't playing in a, beer league 3 weeks before they got drafted into that professional level of sportsmanship. No, they probably grinded it out for 15 plus years and put themselves in such a physical condition that allowed them to be a contender to get into that ring. And that's the difference between timing, opportunity, and preparation. When you have preparation and opportunity, you're like, oh, the time. No, they create the timing. That's the difference. But emotional driven people, never going to happen, never going to see it. See, they follow the trend of what are my rights. It's kind of an unfortunate, prideful entitlement aspect of society, which we kind of see a little bit more often than we would probably like. But this is what we're dealing with, and this is literally the beginning of the end of our civilization as we see it. If you don't believe me, it's very easy to find articles on the cycles of a society. They tend to be around 150 to 200 years, and there's approximately 8 phases. And next thing you know, you go from being just a momentum maker, a mover and a shaker, creating and doing and, building to, well, what are my rights? It's just never going to happen. Well, that's, and I was like, as soon as you get that entitled pride, it's done. It's done. They're the first ones to quit when problems arise. Well, come on now. Or they're giving you excuses. Like, I don't care about excuses. I care about results. Let's step up to the plate and let's do something, That's how that's going to go. And next, they're very moody and unpredictable. It's very unfortunate, but it's one of those things when you're like, okay, seriously, here we are going through this again. Come on. Like, we don't need the drama. Like, just put the stories aside. I don't need all this, like, wild, emotional roller coaster stuff. Like, we just need to push on through. Okay. So that's what happens when you have emotionally driven people in leadership roles that shouldn't be in those roles. And you get all a big mess, big, dirty mess. So with that, you'll find themselves in the mix with many following someone who leads. Emotionally driven people are your followers. And you got to herd them like sheep. And it's just sometimes turns into cats. As you're like, holy geez, man, I got to get catnip. You got to get the catnip. There's bonuses coming. We got raises. And all of a sudden, people just kind of, oh, yeah, let's do this. I don't know why, but if a person is just completely monetary driven and not leadership and personal growth driven, because I honestly believe if you develop the person, money will follow. If you develop the person, the company will grow. If you develop the person, the future will be bright. So you decide on how things are going to turn out, and why are they going to turn out the way that they do is because of the choices that you made leading up to that event. So a little bit on the longer side, a little bit on the windier side, but I had to make, a pretty decent comeback here. But I'm going to tell you, next week, the most important lesson of leadership, yeah, that's right, is building your team part 1. Like, we are going to go look into, like, what does this actually look like, okay? How is this going to work? So we'll be back at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, work hard, stay humble and healthy as well.